Well, it's a beautiful day in the neighbourhood. I thought it a chance again to do an outdoor talk. It's Friday, you can hear the birds singing. It's a lovely day here in Utah. A couple of quick things that have been in my mind this week. We'll cover them both here. Let's talk digital twin first. I hear a lot of talk about 3D. I hear a lot of talk about digital twin. Obviously, 3D and digital twin are different things. I think people get confused there. Digital twin is a representation digitally of real things, so objects, buildings, the world that we live in. So it's a representation of what we would see with our eyes if we drove out and looked at a building, for example. I see the term dynamic digital twin, which is one that's popped up. So a dynamic digital twin is got real-time data in it, essentially. So I drive down the road, I go and see the water station, it's just in the canyon near my house, and I see the water flowing. So there's a dynamic digital twin if we represented that in a computer system. But how much use is that? I would say 3D has its own value, but it's not very many business uses for that. It's just cool. Digital twin, dynamic digital twin, somewhat useful. But if I drive down the road 3 minutes to see the water station with the water flowing, and I see that digitally, how does that help me? It really doesn't help me. So I think that there's an aspect of conversation here that's kind of missing. It's really that, what do you do with that digital twin, that dynamic digital twin, that you can't see with your eyes in reality? And I use that a lot. You can't see with your own eyes. Because if you see a dynamic digital twin in a computer system, so what? Does that solve a problem? Probably not. Where it becomes really valuable is when you augment and enrich that data. And I've mentioned this before, but if you bring in other data sets to that digital twin or that digital environment you've got that's got lots of digital twins in it in a geospatial way, then you're adding value. So what I can't see with my own eyes, if I go down to that water station, what kind of things can we do with a digital twin, a dynamic digital twin, that will help me understand and solve problems? Maybe the water flow. We've got a flooding problem, potentially a flooding problem here. When that water in that river gets to a certain level, they're going to have to start diverting it. How do you know when it's got to that certain level? Well, you can monitor that in a digital twin. You can see the water flows. You can have analytics that do alerts that say there's a problem here. So again, I think enrichment would be adding more data, digital data to that. Again, I've used examples in the past, bring in GIS point data to show things that collisions that happen on roads into that dynamic digital twin environment. So you can enrich the data, and then by augmenting it, you can actually add things like analytics to it to allow you to actually understand what's actually happening in real time and do something about it. So I think the real value of dynamic digital twin is augmented and enriched versions of the same, so not what we can see with our eyes. So that was point number one I was going to make. The second point, very quickly, is really around the whole commercial world of geospatial. I've spoken a lot about the fact that we're in an environment that's changing, that the world of the fragmented world of geospatial is all coming together. So you have remote sensing, GIS, all these ways that we collect data, analyze data, visualize data are all coming together into one place. But I feel as though the commercial models have fallen behind, a long way behind actually. I think that number one, we don't start with a problem, we still continue to start with data and technology. I've spoken again about that before. But the other thing that I'm kind of aware of is that consulting is really a big thing now. I think that it's all about solving problems for folks, but bringing the best pieces of the puzzle to solve the problem. So when you work with customers, and it always starts with customers, how do you actually solve the problem? Well, number one is to obviously understand the problem and tease that problem out of customers and put folks you're working with. But the other piece is then stitching together the bits that help to solve the problem. And the world's become a much more complicated place. So I think we've moved now to a model where we're no longer kind of selling widgets. I think we've long lived in a world where it's kind of that transactional sales world where we go in, we sell something, we run away and we sell something again. We're moving away from that. I'm not saying that transactional selling isn't still important, but we're moving now into a more consultative sales world, and that's a different game. And I think a lot of orgs are trying to get their heads wrapped around what that actually means, what that actually looks like. So, 2 thoughts for the Friday. Hope you have a lovely weekend, and thanks for listening, and I'll do another one next week.